How's it going, folks? Stu here. Next up from the London Film Festival, I caught Jane Campion's new film, The Power of the Dog, or as I'll now be calling it, Stop Whistling, Ben. Just stop whistling. I appreciate it doesn't roll off the tongue quite as much, but I do think it's an important PSA. Ben, stop it. That's right, The Power of the Dog screened at this year's film festival, and I saw that mother lover, which is the latest from Jane Campion and also stars Benedict Cumberbatch, which made it a weird film for me in that I was excited because I liked the director and the creatives behind it, but not that excited because weirdly, I don't tend to like Benedict Cumberbatch and stuff. I think he's overrated, all right? I'm sorry to say it. As long as it's out there, we can move past it now. And this one is a Western that I'm reluctant to give too much away on in terms of plot, because I think it's probably best to experience going in as blind as you can, which is how I went into it. But I'll say that it is about two brothers, played by Benedict Cumberbatch and Jesse Plemons respectively, and a film follows their lives. And I kind of, I guess surprisingly, really loved The Power of the Dog. I thought this was a hugely absorbing film that weaved and evolved and went to places I didn't expect, but that I completely loved and fell into. Campion's direction here is very sort of patient in the way it starts to unravel its characters and its story. And I think a result of that is that this film gets off to a bit of a rocky start, if I'm honest. I wasn't having a bad time, but it definitely took me a while to sort of sink into it and catch it at its own pace and see where it's really going. But once it does, this thing only gets more and more gripping, more and more absorbing as we start to learn more about these characters, what makes them tick, and also the themes that Campion's interested in pulling out of these characters. It's a gorgeous film from a presentation standpoint. I mean, it's filled with, I suppose, most obviously some gorgeous sort of landscape vistas, which we're always going to get from Westerns, but they still look stunning here. And the patience that Jane Campion brings to this as a director means that we're allowed the time to really absorb the environments and really absorb all the areas that these characters are in. It takes place a lot around this one central house, and I love the way that she films the house and the way the characters navigate through it. It's a gorgeous film to look at, but it's also really wonderfully blocked and directed from that sense. It's a film that weaves and shifts a lot in a really satisfying way, I found. I loved the way that the characters in this film constantly shift in terms of their power dynamics, in terms of their roles in the film, and it shifts perspectives in a really subtle way, but in a really effective way nonetheless. So even though you get to places and you think, oh, I didn't expect us to be going there, it never felt like, oh, how the hell did we get here? Which I think is a really tricky thing to get perfect and nail, and I do think Campion absolutely hits a nail on the head in that sense here, and I find that really rewarding. It reminds me a lot in many ways of something like Phantom Thread. I mean, two very different films in what they're saying and doing, but in the way that Phantom Thread evolves what you think is one thing into something else entirely towards the end, I think Power of the Dog definitely feels similar. It's helped that she's got great performances along the way, and everyone is really great in this film. We'll start with Benedict Cumberbatch because you want to hear what I think about Benedict Cumberbatch. For someone that on the whole doesn't tend to click a lot with a lot of Benedict Cumberbatch's performances, I thought this was one of the good ones. I really enjoyed his work here. I do feel like a lot of the time I'm kind of aware I'm watching Benedict Cumberbatch, like it is Cumberbatch, but I do think it works for the character on screen here, and even though there are moments that are just like shouty, I'm Benedict, all of the other moments in there where he's quietly brooding and you're never sure exactly what he's doing or what he's thinking are really absorbing and kinetic to watch. For me, the standouts come elsewhere in people like Kirsten, Dunst, Jesse Plemons, and Kodi Smit-McPhee, who are all fantastic in this film and who all deliver different things from their characters at different points in the film and always work. I loved watching Plemons and Dunst's relationship evolve in the film. It's one of the things which hooked me throughout the beginning, but as the film goes on, different players become different parts of the film, and it ends up shifting a lot onto Kodi Smit-McPhee, who I thought delivered one of his best performances yet. I loved the guy in this. I couldn't stop watching him. Well, I say that like I had an option, but you know what I mean? And actually, having said everything I've said about Benedict Cumberbatch at this point, I do think him and Kodi Smit-McPhee worked really well together on screen. I thought their scenes and their relationship was really interesting and captivating. Everyone's just killing it from a performance perspective. But from the midpoint onwards on this one, I don't really have many problems with where the film ended up going. I was mesmerized by what it ends up revealing itself to be in the end, which is something I'm not going to spoil and is killing me that I can't really dissect and discuss for you guys because it's the most interesting part of the film for me. But needless to say, it becomes a really rich and layered look at power dynamics, at gender roles, at repressed desires. Ultimately, I was really surprised and impressed by this film, mainly because I thought I was enjoying it, but not loving it. And then I was just fucking loving this thing. And I'm really happy that it ended up getting me on board and getting me as sucked into it as I can. And I can't wait to rewatch this thing. It's coming to Netflix, which I suppose is a shame in itself, because I do think this thing does deserve to be watched on the biggest screen as possible. So if you get a chance and you can watch The Power of the Dog on a cinema screen, go watch it, because it is gorgeous, and just completely mesmerizing and absorbing. And I know a lot of people tend to prefer to go to the cinema to watch big spectacle things, but I do think there's a lot this film has to offer in a cinema that you're just not going to be able to get from watching it at home on your sofa. And if you are going to watch it at home on your sofa, please just try and avoid distractions, because I think the best way to appreciate this film is just to really pay attention and let it wash over you and let it take you where it needs to go. But I guess that just about wraps up my weird, strange, small rant on cinema going versus streaming at home. But what about you guys? Have you caught Power of the Dog? Did you catch it at the festival? Have you caught it elsewhere? Or are you excited to check it out when it drops later in the year on Netflix? Let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat. While you're down there, why not subscribe? It's a fun thing you can do, and you'll get special bonus prizes, such as... Well, you won't get any. You'll just be able to see my face a lot. See you guys soon for some more thoughts on more films. But until next time, how's Jesse Plemons so huggable, huh? Anyone got an answer to that?